Welcome back to the channel, guys. And ladies, I don't know if there is, but who cares? Or just welcome back, guys. Anyways, this is going to be what if Deku was a teacher at UA. Okay? So, yeah. Let's begin. So, when Ome told Deku that he couldn't be a hero, Deku gave up becoming a hero. He didn't want to be a hero, but he still wanted to learn about people's quirks and wanted to help people with it, to help people with their quirks. So he went to go be a teacher, and every time when he went for a job to be a teacher for the first time, no, hold on. Let's say that he told his mom that he's not going to be a hero anymore. And she says, "Oh, why is that?" He says, "Well, reasons happen, Mom. Reasons." And she said, Did Bakugo hurt you today?" And he said, "Yeah, he did in a way." And just another reason, but yeah. And Deku, because Deku's 15, let's skip to a 3-year time skip. So he's 18. And he got into a school. In a very nice school in Japan. Japan chose him, sorry. And hold up, I'm reading. Yeah, and when he got there, they asked him to fill out his quirk, and he put quirkless. And let's say the people that saw it were surprised that this person wants to be a teacher, be something. So they just let him because they don't really care. He's not going for a hero. In the first day of his training or school, he was on it. He graduated quickly. So let's say it was a 3-year time skip, right? And so if I said he was 18, 19, 20, he's 21 now. He's 21, he has his own house, and he met a girl. And this ship's gonna be, why not? I was thinking Mirko earlier, but hold on, let me think about it. Gotta think quick. Give me a sec. Okay, I'm back. The ship's gonna be Tsuyu. The reason I put Tsuyu is because she would not care if he was quirkless. And I was thinking Nejire, but I said never mind. So yeah. And it's just going to be Tsuyu. He met Tsuyu and they've been dating. So yeah. And let's say that he's been sending he's sent his resume to UA, yeah. And UA looked at his everything and they saw how well he did in school. But then they looked at his quirk, but they didn't know if he had any strengths or anything, if he's worked, right? And they look, and let's say they give him an interview. They call him in, and he comes that day. When they ask him, he comes in and he sits with Nezu. He says, "So on your resume, it says that you're quirkless. If I'm right, is that true?" And Izuka said, "Yes, I was born without a quirk. I was bullied for it, and my idol said I can't become a hero. And yeah, but I still wanted to help them." Right? And Nezu's like, "Okay, I understand. Um, but if there's like any villain attack, can you help?" And Deku said, "Yes, I can." And Deku's actually pretty strong in this. But Deku um, has talked to Night Eye for once, right? Um, he got, those weights that Night Eye used to fight Overhaul? That's what he got. He said, yes, I could protect them. I've been working and stuff like that. He pretty much explains what he could do. And there, and Nezu says, okay, you're hired. We will be starting in 3 years, in 10 months. So be ready, okay? Right? And this is a new generation. And Bakugo, let's say Bakugo is the #1 hero now. Because pretty much it's like the new generation of heroes. And Bakugo's first, Todoroki, let's say Uraka, Tsuyu, pretty much class 1A's first. In like the top 10. I don't know. Right? So yeah. And and so it's pretty much like their children, let's say, I guess, in a way. So just so you know, I was thinking of giving him his fire quirk, but I said no because he would probably want to become a hero. And yeah. Hold on, give me a second. Oh, my head itches like a bitch. And okay, let's get back to it. So Deku gets everything he needs, and he was ready. And he told Tsuyu about this, and Tsuyu was going to be a teacher there also, but also a hero. So she did what she usually wanted to. And sorry, what was it? Oh yeah, and it was the entrance exam. And Deku always had his notebook on him, right? And let's say Ozawa, before they chose, Ozawa was talking to Deku, and he said, "What's your name?" He says, "So you're a new teacher, I see." He says, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Nice. What's your name? I like meeting new people." And he says, "Oh, my name is Izuku Midoriya," right? And he's like, "Izuku Midoriya? Do you by chance have a nickname named Deku?" And Izuku said, "Yeah, and that was a very old nickname I got from a bully." And then Ozawa was shooken because Bakugo was still in his class, and Ozawa had a flashback, and it was, there's this kid named Deku. He always wanted to become a hero, but then gave up, right? And he was just weak anyways. Didn't matter. I bullied him. And he was telling this to, let's say, Monoma. Yeah, just why not? And Monoma was agreeing with him. And it's always like, oh god, I can't believe that our number, no, yeah, that, and it was always like number 10 now. And he says, I can't believe the #1 hero is a bully. He used to be bully. And he says, so, he's like, it's okay. Kachan's like that a lot. He says that's his nickname. And he said, yeah. And when they walked in, because Ozawa walked in with Midoriya, right? Izuku saw Bakugo there. And, or thought he saw Bakugo, but it was, but Deku didn't notice. And, yeah. And Deku got there and was watching. And if he saw a mutant quirk, he wrote it down quickly. And Deku had to look at a site where he would have been if he did go for a hero and had it one for all, right? So yeah. Where was I? Crap, I'm trying to remember. and he saw this kid he saw this kid. This kid had a mutation quirk. The mutation, well, it didn't look like it at first, but when Mike said go, this kid turned into flames. No, not flames, into light. No, he was super fast, so Izuku was paying attention to him. And when he took down some points, and it was helping, Izuku read everything. So he put up some points for him to join with the heroes for saving points or whatever it's called. And let's say when a 0-pointer, they thought, why not put another 0-pointer, right? They put a 0-pointer, or they summoned one. And Izuku was watching what people could do with it. And everyone ran away, except for 3 people. The person that had that speed quirk, he was thinking, right? A person that has a quirk that he could breathe fire, and another one that could control water. Yeah, because why not? And they stood and actually held it back from people. But the time ran out and the 0-pointer stopped. They never destroyed it. So everyone raised points and everything. And the kids that came in. Kids that did not. And yeah. Everyone and every kid got their thing, and that was it. And it was like, it was like 3 weeks later they came. And Izuku got the 3 kids and some others. I'll tell you them later. And Izuku was already there waiting. The first kid that came in had... Here, give me a second. Okay, this is what he's gonna look like and does his name and everything. So, I can't say his name. I'm just gonna call him Toshinori. Because why not? So, he walked in and he said, "Oh, hello." And he said, "Oh, hello. How are you?" And he says, "Good." And he says, "What hero are you?" And Izuku says, "I'm not a hero, I'm just a teacher." And he says, "Oh, why is that?" And he said, "Well, I'll tell everyone when the class comes, okay?" And he says, "Oh, okay." And he says, "So what's your name?" And Izuku says, "What's your name?" He says, "Toshinori." He says, "Oh, what's your quirk?" If I could know, if that's okay with you. He says, "My quirk is glass manipulation. It's strong, but can easily get broken." And he says, okay. And Toshinori saw him write this down in a notebook. Right? And he says, Toshinori was like, huh, I see. And another person that came in was... I'm using everyone that's in this, just so you know. And another person that came in looked like this. And he said, "Oh, hello." And he came in and he's like, "Oh, hello." And he says, "Oh, hello. What's your name?" Izuku is saying to him. And he says, "My name is..." Give me a second, I'm trying to think. This one doesn't have a name. Let's give him... Let's call him Josh. He says, "My name's Josh. What about you, sir?" He says, "Izuku Midoriya." Right? And pretty much, he says, "Oh," and he says, "What's your quirk?" He says, "Wings." He says, "Huh. How does it work, if I could wonder. He says, well, during summer, through June to September, I have dragon wings. But through autumn, plus September through December, I get Mrocha, butterfly wings, pretty much, let's just say. He says, I see. Thank you. And he writes this down also. And everyone else came in, they're not really important. And then, okay, so these two are part of it, right? And this is going to be a girl that's in it. And, hold up, I'm trying to, so, photo, blood manipulation. Okay, like this. And she comes in, and she's sassy. She says, she didn't say hello. Suki said hello, and she said, oh, hello. She said, oh, hi. And sat down, and he said, can I know what your quirk is? Izuku was wondering, and she said, it's called voodoo. And he's like, oh, voodoo, I see. So what can it do? She says, blood manipulation. Right, and he's like, I see, I see. And she also wrote that down. And let's say she was the last one, and she said, wait. She said, what are you doing? Right, and he says, oh, I'm just writing down, I wrote down everyone's quirks here. Right, and he says, what? And he's like, I just wrote down everyone's quirks. And everyone's like, wait, why though? Right? And he says, oh, well, the reason I write down quirks is how I could pretty much suggest what your quirks, well, I could pretty much base off what your quirks could do and everything. And I'm going to give Deku this. He didn't know. No one knew. Not even the teacher, sorry. Or the doctor that day. He has a quirk, but it's a tactical one. Right? And the quirk is like he could method or plan out what he could do with different quirks so he could strategize against them. So, and he says, well, I could just kind of strategize against all your guys' quirks if I went against you guys, pretty much. And he's like, huh. And everyone's like, wait, really? He's like, yes. He's like, well, we're not going to go to orientation today, right? And he says, wait, what? And everyone's like, wait, why not? And he says, I want to see what your guys' quirk can fully do. And he says, and they're all in confusion. And they say, oh, okay. And he says, well, can you all go get your gym uniforms on? And he says, oh, okay. And the first person, remember, the first person that asked him if what his quirk was, hasn't told anyone that he has no quirk. So everyone is in the locker room of the boys, and girls were wondering, what hero is he? Or what is his quirk? And he doesn't say it because he doesn't know if he wants people to know. So he didn't let them. They got their uniforms on and headed out. And Deku, when he says, okay, are you guys ready? And they're like, yes, what are we doing? He says, I want to test out your quirks, so we're going to use them in different themes. And he says, whoever has the lowest score will get punishment for a week. Right? And they're like, oh, what? And they're like, wait, why? And he says, I'm kidding. Well, whoever gets the lowest, it's like, whoever gets the lowest, nothing will happen to them. But then when Ozawa came in, but let's say Ozawa came out, and Ozawa was surprised to see Deku. Right? And he says, wait, what are you doing out here? Shouldn't you be in orientation? He says, well, we had option. Wasn't it optional you said that we could go? And Ozawa was like, yeah, it was, but I thought you would. He's like, no, I had it. And then he said, well, I just wanted to see my class. And he said, wait. And then Deku said, wait, didn't I take your classroom? So wait, why are you here? Right, and he says, "Oh, I'm just an assistant, and surprisingly, I'm your assistant for this year, since you're new and everything." He says, "Oh, okay." And he says, "So, you guys doing like a fitness test?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "I used to do those with my old class. I had the number one hero in my class." And everyone's like, "Wait, really? Really?" Except for Koshinori. Koshinori doesn't like the number one hero. He thinks that he's too cocky and everything. So, he doesn't cheer like everyone else. And and he says, "Well, let's see everyone's quirks." And when Kushinori used the glass cut him, and he said, I see." And he got out his notebook and wrote down something, right? And he said, I'm gonna talk to every one of you individually tomorrow after class, if that's okay with you." And he said, and they all say yes. And they do the test. Everyone gets a pretty good score. Toshinori gets third. Third. Um, he he got fifth, and she got first. Let's say, right? And they all came, and let's say that when he was the first one, Toshinori, and he says, "So you wanted to talk to me first?" He said, "Yes, I would." And they had a pretty good discussion. And he says, "So what do you want to talk about, sir?" He says, "I want to talk about how you could help yourself with your quirk." And he says, "Oh, okay." And he says, So I see your glass quirk. You could change it into anything you want, right?" And he says, "Yes, I can." Right? And he says, "Well, every time you use it, you cut yourself, it looks like." And he has bandages all over. And he says, "Yes." He says, "Yeah, I do." He says, "Well, with your hero, I think I got an idea if you would want me to help you design your costume." And Toshinori is actually liking Izuku, right? And he says, "Okay, yeah, I'll allow you." And he says, "Okay, I'll work on that with you next week, okay?" And the next person that comes in is a new person that I'm gonna add. And she's gonna be her. Body. Wait, core body teleportation. Okay. And Mika came in. Yeah, Mika. And he says, "Hello, Mika." And she says, "Oh, hello, sir. So you wanted to talk about my quirk?" He says, "Yes. So your quirk, you told me, was body teleportation, if I'm right." And she said, "Yes, it was." "What's about it?" And he says, "Well, I think I could help you with it." And she said, "Really?" And he says, "Yes. So your quirk is more of a move around. So you're a speed type, kind of, in a way." She says, "Uh-huh." She doesn't know what's going on yet. And no one asked Toshinori what this was about, right? And she said, he's thinking, "I think I could help you with your hero costume if you want. Like, you lay it out and I'll add some minor details and see if you want that with it, like, with permission." And she said, "Yeah, sure. You're a teacher. I should trust in you, right?" He says, "Yes, you should, but if you don't want to, go ahead. I get if you don't want to, right?" And he says, "Okay." She walks out, and someone actually asked her, so what's he talking about?" And she says, "Well, you'll see." And a new person, I'm gonna add a lot of people. I'm gonna add like two more people and then the other two people. A new person came in, and it was this girl. And Sato? Okay, I'm gonna call her Sito. Or Sito. Something like that, so I'm sure. And, hold on. Sorry about that. And she said, "Yes, what would you like, sir?" and she's just eating a chocolate bar, right? And he says, so, I think I know how your quirk works. And she says, really? And he says, yes. With me barely noticing working with your quirk, isn't it when you eat something sweet, it looks like sweet, you can make crystals. And she says, yes, that's exactly what my quirk is. He says, so if you'd want me to, I've said this to the last two people, you will, I could help you with your costume next week. Because you guys will be doing something next week with your costumes. And she says, yeah, that'll be perfect. And he says, okay then, I'll see you next week. I'll talk to everyone tomorrow then, right? And he says, okay, well, you're good then. And she said, okay, and left. And let's say a boy came in, and the boy looked like, give me a sec. Um, um, thinking, who should I give it to? Okay, so I looked up his makeup. What the fuck? Yeah, let's just do this one. So it's this. Hold up. Play. God, there's not that many boys here. Jellyfish. What's this? Break slime. And let's say Ario came in. And he said, yes, you wanted to talk to me? And he's quiet, so he says, you wanted to, talk to me? And he said, yes, I would. Yes, I would like to, if that's okay with you, Arnto. He says, yeah. So, I see with your quirk is called slime, and it's pretty much spitting on your hand, and it comes out, right? He says, yes. And he says, well, I'm wondering, can I help you with your quirk? And he says, yeah, of course. And he says, okay, well, I think if you heat up your slime, I think it could be like acid. And he says, oh, is that so? And he says, yes. I think you could actually have like some sort of heat with your slime. Because it looks like when you used it on, let's say that they had how far they could throw, like, or how, like, with people that they could have their quirks that they could kind of throw. They, like, threw it and see, or, like, threw that stuff, or used it against objects. And Izuki said, well, I noticed that your slime, for was cold when kind of freezing our dummy. And as I was there, and he was surprised that he has a lot of tactics of Izuku, right? And he says, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, totally." Right? And he just got a little boost, right? And then he came in. Where is it? Then he came in and he says, "Yes." He says, "Well, your quirk is very is a nice type of mutant quirk. I like it." He says, "Thank you." So he says, "So is this talking about my quirk?" And he says, "Yes, it is exactly." So he says, "Well, since you're still using your dragon, I'm thinking you might have to have two different types of costumes." He says, "Why is that?" He says, "If you're gonna be a hero, it's gonna be different." He says, "Why is that?" He says, "If you just you won't if you have a costume just made for your glasses, right? You won't be able to use it for your monarch one or your monarch wings, right?" And he's like, "Oh, I see." So Izuku's thinking, tells him the exact same thing. "I could help you build a two costumes if you'd want." And he says, "Yes, please, sir." He says, "Yeah." And he says, "Okay." And and then Kiro, Caro, whatever, came in, and she said, yes, what do you need? And Izuku's like, well, I think if you'd allow me, I could help you with your quirk. And she said, no, I'm good. He says, are you sure? She says, yes, I'm fine. Thank you, though. And she walked out, and Izuku's like, wow. He says, oh, okay. And Izuku packed up his stuff, and Izawa spoke to him. He's like, Izawa. He says, Izuku. He says, oh, yes, yes, sir. He says, yes, Izawa. He said, what, she's kind of different from the others, isn't she? And Izuku said, yeah, just a little, but she should be okay. Right? And he left. And when he got home, Tsuyu was there on the couch waiting for him. And he said, hey, how are you? And gave her a kiss on the head. She said, oh, good. What about you? She said, good. He said, good. How was your class for today? And he said, it was interesting for first year and first day. She said, I see. How was yours though? She said, well, it was different from last year's, of course. And it was just, they liked them. And he says, nice. And she's like, so who's your interesting kid in there, in your class? He says, a girl named Kiro. And she says, why is that? She says, well, her quirk is voodoo, and it's pretty much blood manipulation, right? And she's like, huh, I see. So I asked her if she would want me to help with her quirk, but she said no, and she's sassy to me, so it's different. So yeah. And so he was like, oh, okay. Well, I came here to hang out if you want. Because let's say that they live in different, like she lives in an apartment, and he actually lives in a house. And and Izuku says, you could always move in. She says, are you sure? He says, yeah, it's okay. Right? And she said, oh, yeah, okay, I'll start packing. And he says, well, I'm gonna make dinner for us, and yeah. And I'm gonna end it there, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any more ideas for us, please tell me, and yeah. Have a good rest of your day, and peace out, guys. Love you.